What's up, everyone? So we are finally going to be tackling a major issue that I've had with my RSX for a very long time, and that's basically the whole starting system. So you've probably heard it in other videos. I'm sure it's in other videos, and I might have spoken about it before. My RSX has such a hard time starting, and to make a long story short of why it has trouble starting, I have a high compression motor in the car, as you guys obviously know, right? Battery's in the trunk, and I put the battery in the trunk a long time ago because I didn't want it in the engine bay. I wanted a cleaner look. I didn't really think this whole idea through, so I threw it in the trunk. Now, because the battery's in the trunk, you have the battery cable coming from the front of the car where the fuse box is all the way to the trunk. You got that long 2-gauge cable. The longer a cable is with DC electricity, more resistance there is. And because the motor's high compression, I need the starter's kind of working a little harder to turn the motor over because the compression, it's just a lot more compression. Starter's not rated for 12.5 to 1 compression, so it's got to work harder. Now, because the battery's so far back, you add the resistance to that, I'm not getting enough amps to my starter to turn the car over properly. The only way to fix that is to get a shorter cable. Well, there's other ways to fix it. Honestly, I don't know if they make like reduction gear starters. Now, the best way to explain it is what that is. It's the gears are bigger in the starter. I think I could be wrong. So it uses less amps to turn things more. I'm probably butchering that. Anyway, the other option would be to get a shorter power cable. And the way to get a shorter power cable, move the battery back up front, and I'm going to be tucking it under the passenger headlight. So that's what I'm finally going to be doing. I got fed up at Honda today. The car didn't want to start for me for I think one of the elimination rounds. When I shut it off, it didn't want to start, so I had to let it sit, and I just said I'm done. So I got back, I ordered all the stuff, and I'm going to show you all the stuff I got. For the battery, I ended up going with an Optima red top battery. I went with the red top because this is like what they call their starting battery, and what they mean by that is it gives the most amps on startups, which is technically what I need. So I went with that. I don't remember. They rated it's like a 35 model number, I think, of the battery. I'll have to see. I'll leave the part number or whatever, the link to where you could get this, where I got it from. And the battery tray is just a universal battery tray I bought from Jegs, and this needs to be modified, so I'll be going over how I'm modifying this, so I'll leave the link for that as well. I have all the extra cable I need, and terminals and stuff like that, and covers. I bought all of that, so I have all this ready to go. I kind of got a quick jump, or like a head start, on doing this actually yesterday, so I had to stop myself. It started as, let me see how this is going to look and it started off with let me see something, and then it went towards me actually working. I had to stop myself so I can get the camera. So we're going to start off with the battery tray. Like I said, it needs to be modified, so I'm going to show you how I'm modifying it. So here's the battery tray again that I'm using. This is going to be going right. I have the headlight out, passenger headlight out, just so you guys can see a little more. I'm going to be sticking it about right in here, right in this area, right under the headlight. And the reason why I say this needs to be modified is because when I bought this, I probably misunderstood the description, but I only have about 11 to 12 inches to work with right under the frame rail right here. And this says that this is 11 inches, which is going to work within my measurements. But what 11 inches is the inside diameter. From here to here, 11 inches. Now, this battery tray came with these little ears. It came like here on the side of the tray, so you can pretty much mount it with different adjustments, right? So with both ears, you have one here and one here. They came out to like 15 inches. So what I ended up doing was chopping these off, like these are off. I measured this up. This is going to fit nice under our frame rail, and I'm going to reuse these. And what I'm going to do with these is I actually turn them the opposite way. So instead of them hanging out on this side, I just cut it off, flip it around, and I'm gonna put it on the inside like that. Now I have, I'm gonna use 2 holes that I'm gonna use to mount inside the frame. So these top 2 holes, I'm gonna use them to mount inside the frame. So one here, and I'm gonna use this last hole on the bottom. I'm gonna drill a hole at the bottom of the battery tray right down there. So that way, this last hole down here, see that this last hole right here is going to go through the box right in here. I'm going to bolt it up. So I have 1 bolt holding the actual tray right here. These 2 up here are going to be on the frame, and when I get everything basically mocked up the way I want it, I'm going to bring it to Nicole's father, and then I'm just going to have him weld it up right here. So it's definitely going to hold. So right now I'm going to find where I want to place it and go from there. Then we're going to start putting some holes and making our tray work. Now to make it work right here in the, here you can get a better look, alright? So here's the passenger side. To make it work right down here on the frame rail, you're going to have to do some work as well. Now this sensor was plugged in right here. Yeah, you can see where these bolt holes are. That was plugged in right here to like the crash sensor. I'm probably not going to be running that, so that's hanging here for now. So you're going to have to get rid of that here. You might have the factory harness running this way. You might not. I can't remember, but I just kind of moved all of mine to the side. So here's the factory harness. I have that tucked to the side. But the main thing is this right here. This is not flat to begin with. This actually sticks out this way. So what I did was I actually hammered it flat to fit this way. I'll show you on the other side. So as you can see on the driver's side, it's the same thing. Here's that sensor I was talking about. That's up here. These are just some random grounds I have. But here how it's just sticking out, right? So what I had to do was hammer it inwards to make it flat so I can make the battery tray fit on that side. So back to the passenger side, you can see this is all flat. This is how we're going to get the tray to fit right in our space right here. So I'm pretty much flush. I'm going to be flush right there, and the other side's going to be here. So now you see the frame rails right on top of it. So when I add the those brackets, they're going to have enough to grab right on top of the frame rail. We're going to be right there. We'll play with our height once we get this kind of situated. So, alright, that's enough talking. This is where we're going to go. We're just going to start working. I'm going to lay those in the back, drill some holes, bolt this together, then we're going to start mocking this up here. So I got the battery tray pretty much not finished up, but where I want it. So here's a better idea of what I was trying to explain to you guys. So I just drilled some holes at the bottom so I could reuse these rear brackets to give me some adjustment on the frame. That's all we did for now. This is just for mock-up purposes. Just drilled a 1/2-inch hole to fit the 1/2-inch hole diameter of that, so that's good. I got this just sitting right here because this is kind of like not my level, but this is how I mocked this up here. So let me mount this up real quick. Alright, so this is like the height that I'm going for. It's why I have that there. So this is pretty much what it's gonna look like. Alright, so we'll get another light in here for you guys. So as you can see, if you look inside this hole right there, that's all frame. This one over here is going to be frame. So I'm probably going to mark up right there. I'm going to put the battery in it as well. You know what? That's what I'll do. I'll throw the battery in there to see how it looks. It looks like we're going to have space on the side for like the fender liner here. This is going to fit fine here because the bumper wraps around that. If we look at it sideways, well, long ways, I should say, it is out of the way. I think it's good there. Let's put the battery in it and see how it goes. Don't want to move this around too much, but take this off. It's a heavy battery too. Oh yeah, I think we're good. Yeah, there's not really anything gonna touch here. It gives me enough space for the terminals. I think we're good right there. I'm gonna mark those holes up, and put the holes in the frame. And I'm going to use they're not rib nuts. Rib nuts. That's what I'm going to use right into the frame. All right, give you guys another look at it real quick. That's where we're at. We got good distance from here. You always want to make sure you're not going to touch anything. I'm definitely going to have space once I throw the headlight on. Got some good. The only thing I am a little concerned is because I have this setup standing right here. I can't really throw the fender liner around it to see. I'm assuming it's going to be fine though, just by looking at it. So let's mark our holes up. We're going to make our holes, and then I'm going to show you the rib nuts I'm using. So just in case you guys have never heard of rib nuts or what rib nuts are, I'm going to give you guys a brief explanation, and I'll show you guys how to put one on really quick on the wonderful invention of rib nuts. Basically, rib nuts are, you're going to drill a hole into something that you can't get to like the back of, or definitely for frames where they're going to give you more threads than if you just drilled a hole and tapped it, where you're only going to have those little bit of threads on however thin or thick that piece of metal is. This is actually like a nut, but you don't have to reach the back of it. I'm doing a horrible job explaining it. Let me explain to you or show you guys how it works. We'll put one on and see why they're so great, and why I've never used them before. This is the first time. This is actually Kenny's kit. I asked Kenny if I could borrow it because this is the perfect example of where you can use them and how great they're going to work. So let's show you guys. This is the actual kit right here. If you guys have used like rivets, you've seen these. This is the same exact tool that you would use, except this is for threaded inserts. So they have your metric, your standard sizes. I'm using M8 size. These are the actual rib nuts you would use. And Kenny takes it a step further, because Kenny thinks of things way more or way farther than I do. I would have never thought of doing this, but he actually went and bought a stainless steel kit so it doesn't rust over time. And this was me. I would have used what they gave me. So big shout outs to you, Kenny, because you think of this stuff. I do not think of this stuff, so I'm using the stainless steel ones. So here's the M8 we're going to use. As you can see, what we're going to do is you actually drill a hole into the frame. So I already did one just to test it out. As you can see, it's a frame. I drilled a hole, I riveted it in there, and now I have threads inside my frame. It's that simple. So like I said, here's the M8 one. This just goes into the hole. You put this at the end of here, do the whole riveting action. That gets stuck in the frame, and now you have threaded holes. Let me show you an example of how to do it, and then we can mount the battery tray right up. Okay, first thing we're going to do. So I have my hole circled out over here. I'm going to get a center punch. We're going to get this started. Alright, we got that going. What I'm using to make these holes, and I did it on the battery tray, I'm just using a Unibit. I love these things. They just make it so much easier to keep changing sizes. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go little by little to see until the rib nut actually fits, because I really don't know what size it is. But since I did the other one, I can actually see like traces of where it stopped if it focuses. Is it going to focus? Probably not, but I could see where there's still some ash. It looks like it went up to about 7/16. We're going to drill to, and it should fit. So just get yourself situated. See if the nut fits now. Nope, we're going to go one more size. Check it now. Probably go a little bit bigger. Okay, I feel what the problem is. There's something behind this frame right here. So this might be a little bit of an issue on this side, but let's see. I might have to tap it in just to make sure it goes in, but yeah. Alright, so I happen to pick a bad side. Let me look into this. Turns out actually in this area there's like a little raise inside of the frame, which is why it's stopping this from going in. I ended up just kind of tapping it in. I'll tap it in just a little more to get it in there. It's gonna work. I already tried a bolt to see, and it'll thread in there, as you guys can see. It's gonna thread in there fine. So normally this is not the way you would do it. I should have showed you guys on this side, so that's my bad, but we'll make it work. So what I'm gonna do is grab the tool now, and like I said, you wouldn't do this normally. The rib nut would be on this end first, but to make it work, we're gonna have to do it this way. So we're gonna basically thread the tool in there. Okay, now that we got it, and then all we're gonna do is squeeze. Kind of hard at the angle I have it. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Then you're going to spin the tool out. It's in there. Goes a lot smoother if the hole's actually flat, but I have the battery tray right here, so we're going to test fit it now. I'll have to deal with all these wires after I get all this figured out, but I started in one side. I got that going. Okay, so this is not fully bolted in. I mean, it's bolted in tight, but this thing it's pretty solid. I'm moving the whole car, and this little play is also because I didn't really snug the rear bolts up anyway, and because of the gap that's open here. So once all this is welded up, it's like it's part of the frame. So let's put the battery in there now. So we got our battery. I mean, we're good to go. Our box is pretty much all set up. Now we can start running our wiring. This is the old wiring that I had coming from the fuse box that's in my glove box, but yo, I'm happy with this. This is really good. This worked out really well. So there you go. If you have to ever drill into a frame and you need to like bolt something on it, or you want to bolt something onto a frame and you don't want to tap it, just use rib nuts, man. So this is good. Let me clean up a little bit and we'll move on to the next step. Alright, so this is day 2 of the actual battery relocation. I ran out of time yesterday. I had some plans. So day 2, where we left off, got the battery tray mounted. So what I actually just started this morning was I took the fender off and I started kind of disassembling the interior because of where my battery's in the trunk. I have to get to all those wires to take everything out. So it's kind of messy. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to try to explain a relocation the best way I can, because this is not a true relocation. Since mine has already been relocated, there are some steps that won't apply to you guys if you're just starting from scratch. So I'm just going to walk you through how I did it and how we're going to go about it. So just bear with the mess. It's just kind of tight right now. These wires I have running here going through the frame are for the alternator and the starter. And I found that they run right into a grommet right here, which works fine. So these wires are going to run in the car to my fuse box. Here's the fuse box. I have one of the red wires running to it. Another one runs back to the battery. So I'll explain it better when we actually do it. So that's where those go. The starter wire, actually that black one right back there. So that's running with these. Back, I had it tucked under the sill. Back under this way. It goes right to that distribution block right down there. So that's where the fuse box, the alternator, no, the fuse box, and the fuse box and the alternator wires, they all ran to there. And then that one single wire went all the way back with the black starter wire back to the trunk over there. And so from the trunk, I just have it running all the way here to my kill switch, which is here, right over there. And then I also have the black wire running to circuit breaker there. And I explained all of this in a separate video. It's just, that's all the kill switch wiring, and it's just, like I said, the trunk's a mess right now. I just try to take as least body panels off as I can because I didn't think I'd be doing this again, so I kind of tucked all this pretty tight all in here. So first thing I'm probably going to do is I'm going to redo my fuse box wiring. So if this gets confusing, which it probably will be, you know, it's my bad, there's a lot of wires going everywhere, so I'm going to do my best to try to explain. Just to point this out, this is the power wire for my electric steering rack. So I pull the fuse for the rack from my fuse box, so that's why this is still here. We're not touching this. So what I did is I took the two wires off of my fuse box, which is these two that I got hanging right here, right? So these two need to run to the battery. They need to get the power from the battery. That's what powers up the fuse box. And it's also wired into my kill switch, which is why when I flipped the kill switch killed the power to my fuse box, which in turn killed my coils, my fuel pump, and that's how I was able to kill the car off of the switch, just to try to clear that up. So what I'm going to do is go back to the distribution block, which is right in that corner, and that block I'm going to move probably under the fender down there, because since all of this is like a custom charge harness, my two fuse box wires and the starter, those all need to get their power from the battery. So I'm going to put the block there. I'm going to have two fuse box wires running to the front of the fender right over there. That's going to go into my distribution block, and then the starter wire, I'm not sure how I'm going to do yet. If I'm just going to throw it right to the battery or loop it to the block, and then out of the distribution block, one big wire is going to run to the battery. So that's where we're going to go about it right now. What I'm going to do is just get rid of this wire. That's got to go. The black wire is actually my alternator wire, and this red one is the starter wire. So those are the two that run from under the dash. I'm going to do these last because I have to go under there and do the correct length from the starter and the alternator. So those are last. Right now I'm just going to pull these wires out and get the distribution block, mount the distribution block under there, and start making new cables. Alright, so just to give you guys a quick rundown or a quick tutorial on how I'm making my terminal or my cables to go onto everything. First of all, I'm reusing a lot of my cables since I had so much extra that ran from the front to the back. I'm reusing cable to save some money there. So I'll just grab some, I'm using 4 gauge for my fuse box wiring. Grab my cutters. We're going to start with a clean cut first. Okay. So I'm going to start with a clean end first. I'm using 45-degree angle terminals on the fuse box just because of the location that it is. The 45 will actually just run, you know, the cables down so they're not straight. Next, I'm going to get a razor blade and cut a little bit off. Well, first we're going to put some shrink wrap on this. Next, we're going to get a razor blade, cut this off. The way I determine how much I'm taking off is I'll just kind of put the cable like this just to see how far it's going to go in. So it's going to go into about like right here. So I'll measure it up like that. Okay. So now that we got
the insulation taken off. We're just gonna twist it so we can put it in. You want to make sure you get every strand in there. Alright, so now we're ready to crimp this. So to crimp it, I have a hydraulic crimper. This is where two hands would be very helpful, but just gonna do what I got right now. Once you got it pretty good, back off. So there's our crimp, and I just use a little micro torch. Now this is the marine grade shrink wrap, which I highly recommend. So once it starts to shrink, it'll actually release like a sealant. I don't know if it's a sealant, but it protects it from anything getting in it. It's not just a wrap. If you heat it up good enough, you can actually see it start to ooze out. So you guys can see now that it's like glue that just comes out of the shrink wrap. That's for marine grade, so anything like boats and stuff around the water, they don't let anything enter the shrink wrap. It's overkill, but I like to use it. So that's how I'm making these terminals. I'm going to do this on all of them. The main actual battery terminals might be a little different, but I just wanted to show you guys. So now this is one of the fuse box cables that I've made. So this is going to go on the fuse box side, then we're going to run this outside through the frame. Alright guys, forgive me. I kind of just started cranking on this whole wiring and stuff like that. So I pretty much got the bulk of the wiring done. I just did all that off camera just to kind of get it done quickly. You did see I used the rib nuts again to put the distribution block on. So that I really like these rib nuts. I think it's almost time for me to eat because the no, it's not. Oh, it's not time. Okay, so we still got some time. So I put the distribution block on, ran the new wiring from the fuse box to that. I got the starter wire I made to the distribution block because the fuse box, the starter, and the alternator, they all need 12 volt power. So I'm going to be running the alternator straight to the battery, but I'll give you guys a quick look of what everything looks like right now. You guys saw where I left off. We got the block in there. I'm just using some nice Downstar hardware. You know, shout out to Downstar because I just like the clean one. So this is pretty solid there. These two red wires are going inside to my fuse box. I'll run you guys in there. I used one of these zip tie stands or bases. I really like using these. You could just stick them onto a flat surface and use a zip tie. So that's zip tied there. This black wire runs down this way, all the way down to my starter. I use a black wire just to kind of let me know what it is. You guys probably aren't going to be able to see it. It's right down there under my fuel line. I put one of those covers over it just to protect it. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. You guys can see the black wire though if it'll focus. Alright, there you go. So you guys can see the black wire running to the starter. I got one of those boots protecting that. That is running under here. You see the black wire snakes up. Here's the battery. I put it here. Oop. So I got the battery in place just to try to, you know, start making my wiring routing so I can get the lengths. I got the positive side pretty much done, and I'm using these covers. I really like it. I bought a whole bunch of these just to make everything as clean as possible. So we got the positive. It's all set up, shrink wrapped, crimped. So this is going to be on there. And then we just have our positive wire running from that side to the distribution block. So basically the way the power flow is going to go is you're going to have our power coming from the battery to our block, and our block is going to split off. In case you guys are not sure how they work, the block splits at 12 volts this way, whatever's onto this block. Now, like I said, the alternator still needs to get wired up. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to make the new wire for the alternator, run it the same way as the starter, but what I'm going to do is go right onto the terminal. So I'm going to take this nut off. I'm going to put a ring terminal and just add it to here, so it's going straight to the battery. And then for the ground is simple. We're just going to go to a frame. I have an old existing ground that I was using that I sanded right there, so I'm just going to mount that, and that's pretty much it. The battery relocation is done. It's that simple. One thing I completely forgot about when I was buying all of my terminals and stuff was if I ever got to jump the battery, I'm not taking the bumper off every time I need to jump it. So I've actually had those remote terminals
in this car for a long time, because I originally had my old battery here, but I didn't really like it there. It wasn't working right, and I never took those guys out, and that's why I put that there. So if I ever have to jump it, you just, you pull these guys off, and that's where you jump it. So what you do is you just route cables literally from here all the way. Yeah, still got the hole here of where the cables came out, and you go one to positive, one to negative, and you just jump it from there. So I'm gonna have to buy more terminals so I can do that, and some more cable. That'll be off camera. It's the same process. But if we go inside to go see the fuse box. All right, so here's where the other two cables come to the fuse box, and as you can see, this is why I use the 45-degree ones. They just clear perfect, and they're not touching anything here. They give me enough clearance in the back so I could close it and everything. So that's why I use those. That's all set to go. I'm going to make the alternator wire now. Like I said, I'm going to make the alternator wire. We're going to do all that. I have another boot for the back of the alternator. I'll show you that real quick. Put it all together, make a ground wire, and cross our fingers this is what's going to fix this slow crank. I'm pretty sure it is, but I'm kind of just hoping that's what it is. All right, jumping to pretty much the end of this, I have the ground cable made. I actually forgot another piece to this whole build. So I made the alternator cable. It's connected to the alternator, and I'm getting ready to run it to the battery. I forgot to buy an extra terminal, so I'm not gonna have the alternator hooked up right now. It really shouldn't affect starting. It's just to charge the battery. So I'm going to plug the power cable on. Well, I'll show you the final product of what it looks like. Well, not the final, just a quick mock-up. I'm going to put the positive side on there, and we should have power going to the car. We can start. Hopefully, that's all we need. Like I said, just no alternator plugged in right now. We're just going to see what it sounds like on this first initial start. It should crank normally. Here's the last look. So I have the negative side. That's all put together. We're going to keep that on there. The positive side is hanging right here. I haven't put that on yet. The negative, the ground for the battery is just right there on the frame. I reused that old bolt hole. Put another one of those Allen head bolts in there. The alternator cable is hanging right here. So we'll just leave that, put some tape on there just to make sure nothing's going on, but that's running there. It's going to the alternator right there, which you guys probably can't see. Nah, you guys can't see that, but I have the boot on the cable, which you kind of see. Yeah, you can see the red right under there. I have the boot on there, so that's good. So everything else is set up here. So if I touch this battery right now, you should see a spark or something. Let's see. Well, got nothing right now. Let's put that on there so nothing happens. Let's get the key. We get the key, we'll open the door and see if we hear anything. My garage is a complete mess right now with just extra cables and tools and crap everywhere. Pretty dangerous. It's pretty dangerous right now. So, well, but let's see. Oh, I got lights on inside, so that's good. Well, before I even try to start it, let's make sure there's nothing going to touch anywhere. It's going to blow up. So I have all the old cable in, that's out of the way. Nothing's hooked up there. All the old cables are unplugged. Leave that there for now, and you can see I got a light on, so we have power. Alright, let's try to start it. I think we'll be out. Well, this shouldn't fall. Let me redo this. So what I'm looking for is a normal crank. I'm not looking for anything super fast. I'm just looking for a normal crank. Let's see. Okay, we got everything's good. Let's see if she cranks normally. That sounded pretty good to me. The true test is if it does it again. It sounded pretty good. I think we fixed it. Alright, so that pretty much proved my theory and my thought process of why this car had a really slow crank, and it shows that with the high compression motor, you can't relocate you can't put the battery too far away. You got to keep it somewhere in the front, if not the stock location, and that the Honda starters can take the high compression. You just got to be able to give them the amps that they need. So I'm going to leave that video right here. I have a lot of cleaning up to do. Today's actually Easter, so happy Easter to everybody. I gotta clean up. This is, like I said, this is not completely done. I still have to take the battery tray off, give it to Nicole's father so he can weld it up with in the areas that I want. So it'll definitely be 100% more structural. I need to get like 2 or 3 more terminal ends so I can wire up the remote jumpers, and so I can finish the alternator, because the battery light was on when I started it. It's because the alternator is not doing anything at the moment. So I have a lot, and like I showed you before, the garage is a mess. I have a lot of cleaning up to do. I still have more stuff to tidy up, but I'll do that off camera. It's kind of boring. I kind of showed you guys not really a full battery relocation, but the process that it takes, it's super easy. If the fuse box was in the stock location, it's pretty much the same process. You're just going to take the old charge harness off, make new cables to your fuse box, to the starter, to the alternator, make all of that, run it to a distribution block, and then from the block it goes straight to the battery, and the negative terminal on the battery, you just put that anywhere on the frame and get a good ground. That's it. It starts. So I hope you guys kind of took some information from this video. It was kind of quick, and I kind of jumped around a lot and did a lot off camera, but it's very repetitive. When I did the kill switch video, I'll leave a link on how to run a kill switch. I kind of showed a lot more in depth, so I didn't want to repeat stuff, just show you guys how to do this. I'm sure one day I'll get somebody with an RSX or something who wants a battery relocation, and I can film that for you guys. With this battery tray, it works, but it needs to be modified. So it's not like, I still haven't found a tray that's going to work 100% bolt-on to the RSX yet. And when I do find a tray that'll work, I'm going to keep this one in mind. I'll see if I make some relocation kits for you guys, because I know that's a big thing. So I might jump on making stuff like that. But anyway, so that's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you took something from it, and definitely leave a thumbs up if you like this video. I will catch you guys in the next one. Stay motivated and keep making those streets louder.